About this webinar. So it would be 1 hour webinar. Your participation is welcome. There will be 2 polling questions, and you can use this technology to vote, to choose your answer very, very easily. There will be interactive Q&A session that will be at the end, but you can start to send your questions via the chat box straight away. A presentation is available in handouts, but also 2 days before this, after this webinar, you will receive the recording and you will receive the handouts as well. You will receive the recording, but at the end of this webinar, we would like to ask you to participate in the survey, to share your experience with us and to share how we can make this webinar better. Before we start, I would like to say thank you so much to our technology sponsor, SAP, one of the world's leading provider of modern FP&A solutions. Let me start with a very quick introduction. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, and FP&A. I started to notice probably around 4 years ago when I traveled with our FP&A board, international FP&A board, that there are some companies that already started to experiment with machine learning for forecasting. And we created our artificial intelligence machine learning community that is absolutely non-for-profit. And at the moment, we have 35 representatives from leading organizations. We are looking at different case studies. And of course, the main purpose of implementation of digital FP&A, how we call it, it's to reduce the time that we spend in FP&A on non-value adding activity. This is the result of our FP&A trend survey, last year survey. And you can see that only 26% is spent currently on insight generation and driving actions, only 26% of time. What is interesting, it happens for the 4th year since we started this survey. So every year we see that it's not improving. But best-in-class companies, in average, they spend 80% of their time and more on insight generation and driving actions. And of course, digital FP&A is there to help us to reverse this trend. We did artificial intelligence machine learning research last year, and the results of this research would be sent to you. So it would be like additional reading for you. We interviewed more than 20 leading organizations and data scientists and academics from around the globe. And the main conclusion is that artificial intelligence doesn't change the basic role of FP&A, but it does change the way in which that role is carried out. So definitely it's going to change the way how we're going to work, but it will make it more interesting. It will make it more meaningful and challenging. Just a quick update on predictive planning maturity model. When we did this research, we looked at different case studies, and in reality, predictive planning, it can be all based on human intelligence. For example, you do your driver-based planning that is based on drivers that you know, an Excel model. So this is like your developing state, the introductory state. But then the leading state companies, they combine driver-based planning and predictive prescriptive analytics and also artificial intelligence, machine learning for their planning. And they can go really to granular level, and it's all integrated, it's all holistic. The main message for today's meeting, and we will demonstrate this, you will see this after this case study, that digital FP&A success, it's not only success of artificial intelligence. In reality, it's combination of human intelligence, artificial intelligence, and clever process. We call this Kasparov's law. It's adapted from Kasparov's law, and Garry Kasparov, the world leading chess champion, was quite interested in this. And actually, he described a lot of interesting research that he done in this book. And just before we start, quick and very simple definitions for you. What is artificial intelligence and what is machine learning? So artificial intelligence enables the machine to think and to react like humans. And as you can see, machine learning This is the subset of artificial intelligence. And this is the system that can learn from data through self-improvement and with minimal human supervision. And now I would like to ask our panelists to switch on their cameras, because we are starting to share this interesting case study. It would be quite collaborative work of our three panelists. And what is very interesting about this case study, if previously at our webinars and also at our artificial intelligence machine learning committee, we looked at ML project as a separate project that was outside of FP&A system. This is one of the examples how modern FP&A systems at the moment can be driven by artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence already part of this. So in reality, you don't need to have deep knowledge in data science. You can do this easily. Guys, you are welcome. I believe that Cedric is starting. The microphone is yours. Enjoy.
Thank you, Larisa, and thank you to welcome us in this forum. So let's go to the next slide, please. So today we are really very excited to share a journey, a story, a topic about human intelligence and its combined power. Before I get into our agenda, I'd like just to start with a $1 billion question. Is human better than a machine, or is machine better than a human? In fact, it's not the question, and that's what we learned. The real question is how a machine can help us as finance to drive better insight. And this is what we are really very excited to share with you today, our learning, our failure, but as well our product. You know, before we used to do our financial functional spend planning in R&D using many people, a lot of hours, many systems, many alignment. Today, we are capable to generate in 2 hours only $4 billion USD R&D cost. We started our journey 1 year ago, and just in 6 weeks, we are capable of already demonstrating that AI was powering human input. So we're going to share with you our business case. It's super interesting for us as well to hear you, but equally important, we are going to share the framework around it, our digital transformation, our finance ambition that makes all happen, our business case as live. So today we are going to share 3 perspectives, 3 complementary angles. Myself on the strategic innovation and transformation, François as an entrepreneur on the direct use case and impact, and Marcelo as a customer and leader in our organization. So let's get started and let's go to the next slide. By the way, so you know, before we get into our topic, there is something we wanted to call out through this picture and quote. You know, we think innovation, it's easy. You have an idea, you go for it and done. No, it doesn't work like that. So here you see 3 very famous people, very successful. They are running multi-billion company now. But there is one thing, one specific thing that really unifies them, that connects them together. And the thing is called failure. And we want to call it out because it's an important aspect of a journey for innovation. You need to fail, you need to learn, you need to progress. Failure is part of our innovation process. Now, we are going to go back really in Roche, in finance, and I'm going to show to the next slide our starting point. So what is our starting point, you know, on a high level? We had a finance ambition from a Roche standpoint of view. Roche Finance has always changed, shaped according to the need of the business. What's different this time is how we can connect to our Roche purpose as finance professional, doing now what patients need next. It's our slogan. In 2020, to support that vision, we introduced some key transformation elements, as you can see on that slide. They are running around 4 kind of pillars of transformation. How can we leverage better shared service center where it makes sense? How can we enter in deeper digital space? How can we live our new way of working and being more entrepreneurial? So through this use case, you will see we focus only on one element of the puzzle, which is optimizing end-to-end process and accelerating our digital journey. If we get it right, Roche will be even more an exciting place to be, and at the same time, we will free up significant time and money to reinvest in R&D and make us as finance professionals a better place to be. So now you have a glance about our finance ambition. We are going to go a bit more deeper and look at the reality. Back to my first slide about failure and the reality. So if you go to the next slide, first question, you look at the reality. You have your finance ambition, your vision. The reality is more complex. In fact, it's a journey. Do you know, for instance, that more than 70% of people are lacking AI skills? Do you know that 80% of AI ideas are failing? And do you know, finally, that it takes from 6 to 12 months to implement any robust AI solution? So where do we start then? You know, you have this roadblock. So from this roadblock you see on the left side around culture, implementation, and execution, we find opportunity. We try to look outside of the box. We try to be creative. And therefore, we went from a traditional FP&A capability to a new role, a new capability, looking at digital. We find opportunity to turn our traditional mindset of finance being precise, 100% to an 80-20, with innovation, with creativity, accepting failure. And finally, one aspect of the opportunity is really to trigger this entrepreneur mindset, to be in this experimentation incubator, just to make sure that we can implement what is designed. So it gives us a tremendous window when you look at finance ambition and the reality check to design our future state. And this is what we are going to show you in the next slide now, to go a bit more in a zoom in, our innovation ecosystem. The way we design our innovation ecosystem is very simple, but very powerful. First of all, we turn our ambition from a vision to an entrepreneur implementation within a global organization. Since 2016, Roche is transforming our way of working. We are not anymore in a work where we are asking permission. We do not have project in silo. We moved to our empowerment, network, and collaboration. And therefore, based on this key principle and value at Roche Finance, we build up an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem based on 3 catalysts. The first one, Innovation Forum and Finance Innovation Partner. In innovation, what we realize is that it's really important to have one aligned vision, one goal, one voice. And I say that because in R&D, we are evolving in a completely decentralized organization. And for that, to be able to bring up capability, transparency, and as well being very innovative. So that's the first catalyst. Second one, which is critical component to this ecosystem, is our incubator. We call it the lab. It's in R&D finance today. And as well here, it's very simple. We follow the life cycle of a product. So we have been pioneer. It's very based on a simple sentence. You try, you fail, you learn, or you succeed and you put a product in productive environment. So whatever happens, you win. You learn skills or you have a product for our customer. In addition, this incubator offers an incredible end-to-end solution from collecting an ID, prioritizing, and sprinting. This is based on an open network of 25 people covering plus 150 people in finance. And finally, you know, when you look at these 2 catalysts, there is one which is really important. It's kind of the foundation of the 2. It's all about the way we work. It's all about our agility methodology based on a product owner concept, an 90 days cycle, but as well having the right people with the right passion, the common purpose, and making really the impossible possible. Now, we are going to look at our incubator and look on the next slide, how do we operate our innovation and how this business case that François is going to show in a couple of minutes was born. So first of all, it's based on a simple concept, network and experiment. It's a playground. 25 professionals with high diversity from IT, data scientists, finance, and business, covering a network of plus 150 people. We are working in a total startup environment, in a global company. which is even more powerful. It means no heavy operating model. It's based on people, passion, commitment, and impact. What you can observe here is basically the customer is centric to our model. He's in the solution, he is with the solution, and he is for the solution from A to Z. And therefore, in less than 8 months, setting up this big transformation, we were not only increasing and learning new capability, we build up a diversified portfolio touching multiple technology with more than 8 experiments, 2 in production, 3 to come, and 1 SAP Finalist Management Award. Power of innovation really relies on network, people, experiment, and impact. All right. Now I presented you on a very high level our ambition, ecosystem, innovation framework. Let's go straight to the point. And François, can you tell us more about how you manage in a couple of weeks to bring that business case in life?
Thank you, Cedric. And hi, everyone from my side. So if we move to the next slide, we'll now enter the business case portion of our presentation. And everything always starts with a challenge. Everything actually starts with a problem statement. The problem statement that we faced a few months ago, I believe, sounds familiar for many finance people across the world in FP&A functions and finance business partners. And this problem was around forecasting. For us in research and development finance at Roche, forecasting had 3 main problems to it. Number 1, it was time consuming. In a single event, you need to generate 20,000 data points manually to come up with a forecast. This would come once, twice, or sometimes even 3 times a year. And it would take weeks between data consolidation, data preparation, and generating insights. The second challenge was around this unharmonized aspect of this. We are a center of excellence. We are serving 3 different decentralized units with different methodologies in forecasting, with different system landscape and tools. How do we adapt to this? And the third and final problem statement was around the accuracy and the insight level. Despite spending weeks and months on doing forecasting, the accuracy level was still average and the insight generation was not where we wanted it to be. So before we present to you our solution and our journey to bring some innovation to that, let's pass the ball back to Larissa, as we really want to hear from the audience on where do you stand on that first polling question.
Thank you so much, Francois. Thank you, everyone. Let me open the first polling question. We would like to hear from you what, in your view, is the biggest advantage of predictive planning over traditional FP&A. Please choose the one that is the most important to you. We would like to understand the priorities, what is happening in your world. What do you see as the main advantage of predictive planning over traditional FP&A? And select one of the following: automating the data entries, increasing the speed of planning process, making the planning process more accurate, or reducing human bias and increasing data-driven insights. So please continue to vote. I can see that more than 50% of you voted, just a few seconds. And we are about to close this polling question. I'm closing it and I'm sharing the results with everyone. Very interesting results. They're quite dispersed. We can see that 60% of you think that the main advantage of predictive planning is reducing human bias and increasing data-driven insights. And only 4% of you think that it's about automating the data entries. Cedric, I would like to hear your commentaries.
Thank you, Larissa. This resonates to us very well, especially when we build up our use case across the speed, but as well how we can replace data entry point to generate insight. So fully aligned with what we have been experimented and reflecting very well our journey that you are going to see after.
Thank you, Cedric. Francois, any surprises for you? Any commentaries from your side? please.
No surprises for me. I think the reducing the human bias is very interesting, you know, and especially with what has been happening across the Roche organization. Our goal in the last couple of years is to go beyond budgeting, not wasting time on target management discussion, who gets more money and what. So bringing some technology to reduce the conscious and the unconscious bias was also some of the result and conclusion that we've seen in our project. And we'll elaborate more on this after.
Fantastic. Thank you, Francois. Marcelo, I would like to hear your point of view as well.
No, I think it's well said by Cedric and Francois. I think that resonates a lot on our journey of no one bias and really driving insights to our business.
Thank you so much. I'm hiding the results. I'm very grateful to all who participated at this voting. And let us move on. Back to you, Francois.
Thanks, Larissa. So now we've seen the problem statement. Let's look at our journey. Our journey can be summarized in 4 main steps. The step number 1, with 1 data scientist, 1 finance person, 1 IT, we ask ourselves, what is the technology out there? What is the solution that can solve this problem statement around forecasting? So what we've done in step number 1, we compared open source solution, R Python, against SAP Analytics Cloud, and especially the predictive capability of SAP. We looked at 3 dimensions. We looked at the level of accuracy, we looked at the user friendliness of this, and the business value. We wanted to understand from a tool perspective, is this fitting our current system landscape or environment, our current system environment, for us to be fast at implementing something. For us, it was clear that SAP Analytics Cloud predictive capabilities was bringing the best value for where we were at the time. So that takes me to step number 2, prototyping. Here, prototyping, the main question we asked ourselves was, is a machine more accurate than a human when it comes to forecasting? And the goal of this prototype was, let's come up with an MVP, a most valuable product or a proof of concept as fast as possible. And it took us only 6 weeks to realize that, yes, a machine can be more accurate and sometimes even much more accurate than a human forecast. But there is a few things that we've done to get to that result. So in the prototyping, what we've done with a couple of IT persons, a couple of finance persons, we had daily meetings, daily calls, 10 to 15 minutes to have daily goals and weekly and monthly goals. And the whole concept was around to do prediction runs. So a prediction run, in essence, is using the tool, so in this case, SAP's tool, doing a data load, doing a data preparation. After the data preparation is, how do we actually normalize some of the data points? How do we look at some outliers in the historical data that we leverage? And then after we apply the algorithm, which is already embedded within the technology, to generate the prediction. As soon as the prediction was generated, finance takes over. We do analysis. What is the most accurate? What is the most impactful? We fine tune and we do another run again. And we've done 120 runs in just 6 weeks to get to the result. And the result was pretty mind-blowing. The result was that we went back in time in 2019 and 2020. We compare machine versus human forecast. And then in average, we realized across our 3 business units that the machine was 7 percentage points closer to reality than the human forecast. That takes me to step number 3, right? We wanted, after realizing that, to test that in a live environment. So we decided to go small, but we decided to go fast. We picked only 1 out of the 3 business units. We said, okay, you know what? We're going to do the prediction. We're going to download this prediction and load it into a planning environment. We're going to let finance business partner know, guys, we've pre-populated all of your forecasts for your department, for your unit with the prediction. You just have to go in the planning environment and overwrite if necessary. The first adoption level was around 45%. 45% of this forecasting cycle was actually done by a machine versus a human. And then we waited a few months, we turned around and we looked again. The accuracy level from the machine versus the human was still very performing. However, what was really interesting is that human being would take a lot less time, but would focus on really what matters most, right? And this is where after we realized that taking step number 4, we made this solution live and in production, but expanded to not only 1, but 3 business units overall. And then the cherry on the cake per se, we've been working very closely with SAP. They've been helping us along the way tremendously. And as soon as we came up with a live solution in just 6 months, we went live just a couple of months ago. We were selected to become part of the SAP Innovation Award, where we became a finalist with our business case. So now, let's go into the solution itself. And in the next slides, you will see that our solution. So we try to put a basic visual into our solution. I cover the problem statement, I cover the journey. Now the solution, everything starts with the historical data. We leverage 10, 15 years, 20 years of historical data. What we apply on this is the human, the financial insights. What kind of data point do we want to identify as outlier? What kind of data point do we want to normalize? What kind of mapping or rules do we want to apply on this historical data to get the best prediction possible? Once we have this, we have the prediction. You see the dotted line going to the right. And here with the prediction, what we've done is just creating a baseline in a very fast manner. You know, in 2 hours, we could create a baseline of $4 billion across multiple departments and multiple units. So where is the human in all of this? After we generated the baseline, the human would come and override data if needed based on key drivers. It can be expanding a specific research and development site, hiring people, shifting people from one organization to the other. And these kind of key drivers will push the human being, the finance business partner, to update this baseline only if necessary. And this is exactly where this combined power of human and artificial intelligence comes. The second aspect that I want to cover as well around the technology is you don't have to be a data scientist to do that. You don't have to be a data scientist because today the tools that are being offered across what we've seen are smart enough that just with a few inputs and financial insights and the human being thinking about this, you can get to amazing result. Just to give you a case, we were only 2 IT persons and 2 finance persons, 4 people in total, only 6 weeks. After already 2 weeks, we could see some very good result and almost everybody was new on that technology. The last aspect that I want to mention around the solution is the flexibility component. What was really nice about having a prediction based on historical data is that you could apply different granularity level. You could say, you know, I want this prediction for 20,000 data points for unit number 1, or I want a prediction for 10 data points for unit 2. And we could really play around with the flexibility aspect. So after looking at the solution, in the next slide, you will see, but what does it mean, right? What are the outcomes that we've actually achieved as an organization? So if you go to the next slide, please, Larissa. So these are our outcome. I think you guys, we covered this in polling question number 1, but the main outcome for us was around removing the low value activities. This one particular unit that tested that in the first place a few months ago, as soon as we went production in January and February, they decided to automate 70% of the data points. 70%, that's thousands of data points less to be generated by a human. So it released a lot of time for people to focus on what matters most, the key driver that we identified. The second is fast and fit for purpose. In just 2 hours today, as I mentioned, we can generate $4 billion USD financial forecast against weeks in the past. The third element is the forecast confidence. Even though it was not something that we were really looking for in the first place, it's still nice to say that at a very high granular level, at a very top granularity level, the forecast accuracy is always much more accurate from the machine versus the human being. And the last aspect, I think you guys covered it in the polling question number 2, is Roche, we've been trying to move beyond budgeting, not wasting time on target management, who gets more money and why, not wasting time spending, involving the entire organization to come up with a forecast. So this technology and relying on this technology also allows us to clear some of the conscious and unconscious biases when it comes to forecasting. So now let's take a small break and go back to Larissa, because we have a polling question number 2 to ask you.
Thank you, Francois. Let me launch the next polling question. And we would like to understand, when do you expect to start this predictive planning journey in your company? I'm launching the polling question, and please, can you start to vote as soon as you see the question? When do you expect to start your predictive planning implementation? No plans at all within next 6 months, within 6 to 12 months, in more than a year. So please, can you continue to vote? I can see that more than 50% of you voted just a few seconds. So do you have no plans at all for your predictive planning implementation, or will you start within 6 months, 6 to 12 months, or in more than a year? Okay, so more than 60%, more than 65% of you voted now. I'm closing the poll, and I'm sharing the results with everyone. At the moment, as we can see, 1/3 of you no plans at this time at all. 25% of you are planning to start this journey in 6 months, 21% in 6 to 12 months, and in more than 1 year, 24% of you. Francois, what would be your commentary?
So when I look at people with no plans or plans in more than a year, that represents more than half of people that voted. And what I want to say to the audience is it doesn't take so much effort. We have technologies out there. You just need people. People is at the center of it. If there is commitment, this is something that can be implemented in a very short amount of time, right? So that would be my takeaway from this.
Thank you so much, Francois. Marcelo?
I was impressed first on really seeing, how split it is between all the 4 timelines. But yeah, as Francois mentioned, the ones that resonates more to me, it's the no plans or more than a year. It takes way less time than we think due to the new technologies that we have. So something for the audience to reconsider.
Thank you so much for your commentary, and thank you everyone for your voting. I'm hiding the results, and let us go back.
Yes,
Back
so
to you.
thank you, Larissa. So now we've seen the finance ambition, we've seen our digital transformation and the business case. So now, Marcelo, can you tell us a bit more on the customer aspect? You sitting on the receiving end, on the leadership and customer aspect, how did you take this business case and what value did you bring for your department?
Yeah, no, thanks, Francois. Well, definitely, first, I want to say that I was extremely happy to see how agile and bold you guys were to implement, such a big process so quick. And that's definitely helping us on our ambitious and vision on going beyond budget. And we have another one that we've been talking about on let's the scientists focus on science. And it's really helping us in that end. So the adoption of this new technology is really multiplying our added value and allowing us to spend more time with our business partners to, what you mentioned, understand more, the key drivers, the strategy behind how our portfolio is progressing, and what scenarios they are thinking about for the future, and then we reflect that on the numbers. So it's been great to see, how this extra time that we are getting, that we're really engaging more with our business partner. And I think the feedback that we've received is, that they appreciate our thought, and we've been becoming a more thoughtful partner to them, and not just going to the traditional variances and really go deep on the business itself. So yeah, so far the experience has been great. We appreciate the extra time to really invest on our business and really understand what's the outcome that we want to drive in the future. If we go to the next slide, we can highlight, some of the practical steps that we took and we're still, working on. And if anyone wants to consider, this kind of project that you could go for it. Basically, the first one is the first pillar would be around the foundation. Get the foundation right. So we've been focusing a lot on our master data and data quality. So that's key, to have a good outcome. So that's something that we are working on heavily. the lean and harmonized processes, I think Francois alluded to that. We have different functions with different processes. We used to have different processes. Now we're focusing on really harmonizing and having a very lean process across the organization. And then last on that one is really leveraging the right technology. I think it's well we spend the time on really looking at what technology is going to fit you best on what you have as infrastructure, because that will pay off, big time on really implementing that fast. The second pillar, but not less important, is really around the mindset. And I think Cedric alluded to that on the empowerment and the entrepreneur mindset in our organization. We're really empowering teams to drive outcomes, and I think one of the key things as leaders, I think one of our main goals is really to remove roadblocks from them so they can really freely drive, what they are passionate about and the project that they're working on. Something important for us, it's really on this failure is an option, and that's really true. I think we don't mind failing. I think the only thing that we ask is if we fail, let's fail fast and let's learn from it. That will, allow us to move other process quicker. And something that I noticed that we've done differently, and I think that's one of the success cases for why we move so fast, was identifying a small experiment. Before, traditionally, we used to really go in this big challenge that we used to have and try to implement something big that would take years to do it. So now we're really focusing on very small business case and try to get that right, and then scale as we go and as we learn. Some other considerations that that we're taking and it's really helping us, it's really around our structure. How do we build less hierarchical, self-aligned teams? How we can build a structure that we can transfer capabilities across, that we have more hybrid roles. Today, we're not so much around the functions that we used to have, like we have a finance, and then we have IT, and then potentially we have our lab. So now it's everything together. So we try to put people around outcomes, and I think that's a key as well. And we're really trying to expand networks and really build community of practice, community of interest. So it's great to see the power of the teams when people can assign themselves to tasks that they're passionate about it, and really drive those outcomes forward. So definitely on the organization setup, it really helps to drive that outcome quickly. And that's if we go to the next slide, I think that's I think everything that we had for today. We're happy to take your questions. But it's great to see, how technology is really helping us to evolve as finance professionals, and how we can complement each other. I don't know, Francois or Cedric, if you have any final considerations.
I think
before we start the Q&A, let me send a quick reminder to our participants. We already received a lot of questions, but please don't worry, continue to send your questions. If we don't have enough time to answer all of them, we will answer in email after the meeting. Okay, back to you.
Maybe if you go to the next slide, maybe we can finish with some of the key takeaways. So let me ask maybe Cedric first, or Marcelo. So Cedric first, what would be your key takeaway from this entire 6 months of innovation business case and journey, right?
Thank you, Francois. So for me, to be very simple, don't think big, start small, start with a problem, not the solution, but think business value, product, experimentation, build network. So all this notion of incubator and the power of people makes it really exponential. So that's my big takeaway. Yeah. I'm going to ask you the same question, Francois, now.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, as you said, it's all about people. I would say that the value of an idea is zero until you bring the right mindset and the right behavior. Our idea was an average idea, right? But everybody can have this idea of this challenge. It's just how do we commit? How are we curious to always find solution that brings impact and that brings value? So then I guess I'll turn to Marcelo. What about you? What's your key takeaway from a customer perspective?
Well, it's been a great experience, and I think the what technology allowed us to really spend time on value-added activities and being closer to our business partner to evolve as finance professional. I think that's the future, and everything that we could harmonize, standardize, and automate. I think it's going to be best for us as finance professionals to be really close to our business and make a bigger impact than we used to do in the past.
Thank you so much, speakers. I think it was fantastic presentation. Now this is the time for Q&A session, and let me manage this for you. As already mentioned, we already have a lot of questions, but let us start. Francois, I would like to start with one specific question to you. Francois, did you uncover any hidden key drivers which were not obvious from the analysis by a human?
Interesting. So I would say that the main thing for us was really about seeing that actually releasing a lot of times for organization. I don't think we've hidden like a key driver that we were not expecting before. Actually, we knew the majority of those key drivers. How many people do you hire? Do you have a clinical readout that makes you shift resources from one place to the other? I think the key drivers were none, but the key drivers are now much more existing with this technology that they were before. I think that's a big learning, and not so much on having key driver that we didn't know before.
I would like to ask other panelists, was it the experience for you that you uncovered some of the key hidden drivers? Marcella, Cedric?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think it's just allowed for other possibilities, but nothing comes to my mind.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let us go to the next question. In the current global environment, COVID-19, this sparked numerous anomalies in data across many industries. How have you coped with such a mass deviation from the normal in your predictive tools?
So it's interesting because when we looked at when we redid the forecasting in January 1st of 2020, before COVID impacted most of the countries under Roche, we did the prediction against human against machine, and then we realized that the machine was actually slightly better at forecasting, let's say, travel and entertainment cost for some reason. However, it was still very far away from the truth, and we still have to talk to SAP and our supports to reinforce some of the mechanism in the algorithm to pick up those events from an algorithm perspective to have a better prediction. So I would say it's interesting. We've seen the machine being better for, let's say, a COVID impact on travel and entertainment cost in 2020, but it was not close enough to the truth for us. So this is a bit my take on this question.
Thank you, Francois. Marcelo, the next question is to you as a finance director, as a user. The question is, a finance function aren't traditionally the most innovative one or comfortable with the risk. How did you overcome this problem, and how you gain the stakeholder agreement?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I think that, well, trying to build a more agile organization is something that Roche is focusing very heavily on, building less hierarchical, more self-aligned organizations. So that effort it's been for at least for the last 2 years. So organically we evolve in that environment, and we're being more comfortable day after day, and we're really seeing great results from working on this different structure that we used to have in the past, and really empowering teams and leaders acting more as removing roadblocks and letting them follow their passion. I think it was a process. It was not from one day to another that was done, but it was a full effort, not just from finance, but for the overall organization in Roche. And adoption in the business, it's been great. I think they saw the benefit of us spending, asking them to do less manual work, and us coming with a very solid foundation and really letting them do their work instead of operational stuff. So I think the outcome, it's been extremely positive, because we were able to free up their time as well, not just the finance time, but their time as well on operational tasks.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. The next question is to you, Cedric. The question is regarding the setup of your center. Our company has central data analytics team with Python, BI, ML knowledge, as well as IT department support. Do you think that we shall deploy using the internal company resources, or subscribe to software that already have those resources, such as AI, ML?
It's a very good question. So thanks for asking. When you step back and you look at our network, this innovation incubator. So first of all, it's a network. It could be very well thought through and expanded as well to external company. I think the point here is for us to assess the right technology before thinking about the provider. So back to the question, I see very well in the future a bit more an expansion of that concept, getting even beyond our traditional setup, and definitely can bring a big added value, because then you can benchmark different solutions from different industry.
Thank you, Cedric. The next question is to all of you. Dear all, what was the biggest challenge during this journey? Any challenges, any problems, any big setbacks, and how did you overcome all of this? Shall we start from you, Marcelo?
Yeah, just reflecting a little bit. I think challenges is the adoption. We are so used to do things the way that you used to do in the past, on how to do budget and how to think about forecasting in general, that assuming that a machine is better than us, it takes a little bit of time to get adoption from the teams to be comfortable of using the data and really be rely on the data. So that's something that we've been focusing on, and I think that's why it was so important for us, the backtest and the work that Francois and the team and Cedric did, really to show us how that could allow us to have different conversations. But I think the challenge is on the adoption, and on us really to stop doing activities as well that are not crucial or not value added to our business.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask Francois the same question.
Yes, I think a big +1 on what Marcelo say on the adoption. For us, one of the big learning and kind of a failure that we had also at the beginning is looking at such a positive result in 3 or 4 weeks where machine was much better than the human. We thought at first we're going to replace all the work that finance business partners are doing for a forecasting event. And obviously, if you pitch that idea or business case to finance people, they're going to be very skeptical on this. And then all of a sudden, if you start also going with this idea, you are missing a lot of the layer, the insight that allows you to drive or enable decision making. So we kind of pivoted this communication strategy to say, don't worry, we're going to remove all the low value activities and allow you to focus on what matters most. And I think we pivoted a bit our communication strategy and our showcases when we went to the finance business partner tips. And that was a big learning for us and for me at least.
Marcelo, thank you so much. And Cedric, the same question to you, please.
Thank you, Larissa. I mean, I will echo what Marcelo and Francois said, but as finance professional, we don't have only a capability or capacity to work on such a great solution. Francois was mentioning the fact that we were meeting every day for 15 minutes. So better you get along very well because it's a 6 month journey where you meet, etc. But as well in terms of capacity, You know, we realize quickly how do we prioritize our current work? How do we stop things? You know, and we start to see the potential and the impact we might have, and intuitively we deprioritize our activity. But that was a journey, a learning on our side how to do that.
Thank you so much for your answer. The last quick question to all of you, Cedric, Francois, and Marcelo. And it's about the accounting finance profession. With your experience, in your view, what we should expect in the future? So what types of finance and accounting roles we should expect that they will disappear, and what new transformative roles should appear in your view? We have time for very quick answers, like 30 seconds, yeah? And shall we start from you, Marcelo?
It's hard to say, but I think the traditional accounting potentially will, machine will be able to do closing quicker than we do today. But the strategic accounting will need the human interaction, the interpretation of laws. So there is many things that where finance can play that will not disappear by any means in my mind.
Thank you so much. Francois?
For me, it's really what we call the hybrid function or hybrid role, and especially around this big digital trend happening right now is how in finance are we evolving to being translator of challenges into technologies and solutions. So this hybrid function and the translator aspect for me will be quite critical.
Thank you. Cedric?
Thank you. I mean, for me, it's very similar to what Francois said. I think there is a huge opportunity, accounting, reporting, planning, not to replace us, you know, but to use technology to get our work better. I think this is a tremendous potential. How to get there? It's exactly the point. We have to recreate, rethink our role, our work, our mission with this network concept.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic presentation, interesting case study, and thank you so much for answering the questions. Just to everyone, a quick reminder that we received a lot of questions, and in reality, we need another hour for Q&A. Don't worry about this. We will get back to you with the email after the meeting. With this, just a quick reminders about upcoming meetings. I would like personally invite our today's participants to this interesting FP&A forum, AFP FinNext, that is done in partnership with FP&A Trends. It would be on the 15th and 17th of June, and you have your complimentary pass. You're welcome to use this registration link and join. There will be me and my team as well facilitating some of the roundtables, and there would be fantastic case studies and presentations. A lot of thought leadership in FP&A. And also, I would like to invite you to the next Digital Pan-Australian FP&A board to talk about XP&A business partnering. The link is here. And also the next webinar about how to manage uncertainty with predictive analytics. But also to let you know that this week is devoted to the subject of AI/ML. Tomorrow, we are going to look at the presentation from Microsoft, one of the Microsoft CFOs, about AI-enabled revenue forecasting in Microsoft, and also we will look at the case study of Emirates Airline. And with this, I would like to say thank you so much to our sponsor, SAP. Thank you so much for supporting this webinar. By the way, I promised you some additional reading, and there are some white papers and research papers on artificial intelligence and FP&A. The links are here, so you can download and you check this. I also would like to say thank you so much to our fantastic panel, Cedric, Francois, Marcelo. A great interaction, a great presentation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. Absolutely amazing. And also thank you so much to Roche. It's already our third presentation. We had presentations from Roche, professionals from Sweden, and also from Australia, and now European team from Switzerland. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And finally, I would like to say thank you so much to all of you for being part of this global community. We would be really grateful if you continue to stay in touch and share your experience with us. By the way, Artificial Intelligence Machine Learning Committee is there. If your company already on this journey, please contact me. I would like to invite you to be part of this. And if you have any interesting case studies, thought leadership, you know how to find us. And now, before we close, you will have opportunity to participate in this quick survey to let us know how we can improve those webinars. With this, we are closing this webinar. Cedric, Francois, Marcelo, I hope to see you very soon in person. Hopefully the world will get back to normal very soon. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.